out why the warming shelter and why Don and Debbie Williams, that's a simple bureaucratic answer, because they applied, okay? Because their application, that goes right back to zoning. When somebody makes a zoning request, they then become responsible for coming up with a plan on how to mitigate it. So Patrick and his staff and his board are incredibly talented people. I've had the great pleasure of working with Mayor Williams for the last 4 years, and he and his wife are two of the most entrepreneurial people I've ever known. They've got wonderful ideas, and because they're the ones that are applying, my recommendation to the council is to task them with making this happen.
I really think it's the city's responsibility. I do not think it's the responsibility of volunteers.
Well, I had some great ideas and they didn't work, okay? So, as a matter of fact, they kind of got in the newspaper and blasted. I got calls from Newport. I got calls from other areas of the country. My frustration showed when I kind of led into a city manager that I knew. So as wonderful as the bureaucrats are, we are bureaucrats, okay?
I'm worried about what's going to happen next week and the week after that as far as the temperature is concerned. And I'm worried about how that affects the homeless in our community. And so at this late date, I don't see we have a lot of time to set up a zoning plan like you're talking about, a plan of action, a mitigation, all of those things, when I'm worried about within the next couple of weeks, what's the temperature going to be and what's the effect of that on our homeless. And so, because I feel so strongly in that regard, it bothers me when I hear you say you're not going to recommend to council that they use their emergency powers to take care of an event that's impending. And for what's going to happen until the long term fades in my worry, it fades in my concern. I'm concerned about now, we're approaching winter, and that you as general manager several times this evening have said, I'm not going to recommend to council that they use the emergency power that they passed this last meeting.
They're going to have to make their own decision on that.
Well, what's your role then? I don't understand your role.
My role is providing information. Now, we had a question.
And this meeting is very similar to the meeting that we had in our little microcosm of our church board to discuss the emergency issues. We knew we were not an ideal facility for the housing of the homeless at night, but we discussed it. We talked vehemently about it. We had the pros and the cons. And I was proud of our church board that they thought, but if we can be some part of the solution right now, whether it's inconvenient to us as a church, whether we have to make a lot of compromises, we'll do it. We tried to probe what would prevent us from doing that with the city. We basically got read the zoning yourself, no answers. We even had an attorney in our midst jot off a letter. It wasn't, I don't believe, was replied to for almost 30 days. So this willingness of a church to say, okay, let's grab a hold, let's do what's right, let's help, was kind of compromised.
I really applaud your efforts, but I can tell you, it's the same problem. It's not permitted in that zone.
I would like to just say one thing in
So the
addition.
same process has to be gone through. Yes, ma'am.
Zoning is a word. It's a 4-letter word. A human life is a lot bigger problem than a zoning issue. I'm speaking as a mother, as a community member right here. If my child is on the street somewhere, your zoning issue doesn't mean a hill of beans to the life of my child. And I think you've got priorities way backward.
A program to take away certain rights to get the police more involved to do something. They tried that in Burbank area, and there's a lot of media there and what have you, and these people actually became volatile, and it was actually more crime when they got things cut off. So I just think it's a tough position to be in. I'm living in the Taft area. I live on the bluff above Mose, and I've seen a lot of things that I didn't know I was going to see coming from where I did over here.
I just say one,
Yes.
as a volunteer, you know, the daytime shelter's open just Monday through Friday, right, and certain hours, 10 to 4. And the activities that go on after we're closed, you know, we can't really control those, they might just looking for, you know, some warm spot, but we monitor the outside, we're always going outside, checking out what's going on. If we see any problem like that, or anybody doing anything inappropriate like that, we're always calling, we're always telling them to move on. So we keep a close eye on that during the day. So, like, maybe the weekend that might happen, and that's really unfortunate, but, you know, we keep a close eye on it.
All right, I am really quite encouraged by everything that I've heard, okay? The good, the bad, the disagreements, the agreements, I'm really quite encouraged because it's exactly where we should be in this. My recommendation to the city council is not going to be whether or not you approve the emergency provision or not. I'm gonna leave that up to them to make that decision. But what I am going to recommend is that the warming shelter, okay, and Don and Debbie Williams, who are the applicants, lead this group. And anybody else who wants to be a part of it, to provide means whereby we can mitigate the impact of homelessness in the neighborhood while providing a service, okay? It was neat listening to all of you because I already started to hear the ideas coming up. They came from over here, they came from over here, they came from there, they came from there. We started to hear the very things that need to go eventually to the to the city council on how to mitigate while you are attempting to help. Okay, that's going to be my recommendation to the city council. That if they are going to go forward and approve something, whether it's on an emergency basis or on a change of zoning basis, that the warming shelter and Don and Debbie Williams lead a group to come back with a plan that deals with the effects in the neighborhood of homelessness. Okay? Don?
Well, I appreciate that, but to me, it just is a little unfair to say this spot has an impact. When there's a liquor store across the street, there's a convenience store selling fortified wine and beer, there's a easy flat beach access, there's a church that provides dinner and showers. So it's been that way for a long time, like people said. You know, we had a couple of articles in the News Guard that I thought were pretty disingenuous about people stealing flowers from Captain Dan, when those were the same issues we talked about in Bama 6 years ago. It was the same thing. So anyway, I just want to say, I'm more than happy to lead a group in this, but I don't want to say it's only because of this.
I'm fine with that, and,
Yeah.
no disrespect meant in what I'm about to say. I am a wonderful bureaucrat, okay? I am a great bureaucrat, which means I know how to use the heavy hand of government, okay? But the heavy hand of government doesn't always work, okay? Patrick and I have been talking about multiple ideas, and quite frankly, I've kind of run out of my own ideas, and for one reason or another, they're not workable, okay? As I've talked with them, as I've presented it, it's come back and said, no, we can't follow through on that. I've become even more convinced that it takes this kind of groundswell to make it happen.